self-control. Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes in with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brian Thomas, and you are now stuck with me here. So you can't leave. It's against the rules. I'm sorry, but you came in all on your own. I didn't do this to you. Now you're stuck with me. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Happy Thursday. Hope it's been a good one. Tomorrow's Friday, so life is good. And remember, tomorrow night on the Paranormal Portal, we'll be welcoming Mr. Donald Schmidt to the show, and he is an absolutely amazing and compelling man who is just a wealth of knowledge in the UFO, specifically, the UFO realm completely, but he specializes in the Roswell incident and Patterson Air Base or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm just multitasking here, so my mind is going three different directions. Being that I'm male, if my mind's going more than one direction, I'm already screwed because we don't multitask that well, at least not in my experience. But anyway, yeah, it'll be a great show tomorrow night. And then on Saturday night, Don will be back and we'll be welcoming Truth Seeker. That's the name he uses, his pen name. And he's an author of a brilliant book regarding the spirit world and stuff. So it should be a great show on Saturday as well. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. Hope everything is wonderful. Paranormal Portal, hey Brent, have you thought about initiating the stream a little earlier so viewers can be in chat prior to the show starting? That's not a bad idea. I guess I hadn't. I hadn't thought of that actually, but I guess it's if enough of you all agreed that that's what you'd like to do, I can certainly launch the streams earlier. I think the only liability, I think, would be that I would have to trim it all after the show. I would have to go in and trim that section out, and then I lose the chat replay on YouTube. I still have the chat replay on the window here, but it's so small and mini. I love the fact that you guys contribute on the shows. That to me is, it's really important because you guys are really like the second co-host to the Paranormal Portal. Your involvement, your energy, your inclusion, your information has been such a great thing for the portal that I never want to delete that chat part that goes with the shows. But then again, I get a lot of comments on YouTube like when I talk too much prior to getting into the show. People are like, oh, you just need to quiet down and get to the business, So it's kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. But if enough of you guys want me to roll the chat earlier, I sure can do that. That's not a problem. I can leave it run while I'm sitting here prepping and stuff. But you guys will have to let me know. I don't know who's going to tabulate the results on this. But it's a great idea. I'm honored that you guys would love to get together with each other and chat. It's an amazing community you guys have made, and I can't take any credit for that other than I just sit here and do the show, and you guys have this fantastic camaraderie going on over there, and I'm just humbled by that. So let me know what you guys think. If that's something you'd like me to do, it's something we can at least try and play with a little bit and see what you guys think. But anyway, I hope you all are ready because it's time for bed. Yes, I do, Ken. Yes, I do. But that's it's funny because there's a lot of other shows out there on YouTube where that's what they do. They roll an intro and then they start talking with a brief introduction. They start talking about stories, and that's fine. And I love those shows too. But this has always been mostly about community. The Paranormal Portal's always been mostly about the sense of community and the sense of it being a discussion. And so I like to sit back and just tell you guys what's going on and what I'm thinking and things like that. But some people are more interested in just the spooky parts. They don't really want to know anything about what I think, and that's fine too. But it's neither here nor there. It's just personal preferences. But I always talk back to them and say, it'd be boring if I didn't talk. Well, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. I always just fire back and say, this is a community first and foremost. If you're looking for shows that just give you stories, then there's a billion other ones out on YouTube that I'm sure can accommodate that need for you, but that's not the way the show works. So anyway, enough of me whining about that. If you want to call in and be a part of the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you are certainly welcome to do that. The call-in number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And it's also right up there. So if you're thinking during the show, hey, I want to call in, what was that number again? There it is, right there. So it's kind of small. Yeah, Julie, I know I got to blow it up. All right. So anyway, we'll get on with it here. Oh, Don stopped in. Hey, brother. We give personality. We do. I mean, that's a real big part of what we do. It's just, it's us being dorks with microphones, and some people that appeals to, and other people don't really care about it or care for it. But Duke says he gets yelled at for chatting with his guests and not just letting them talk the whole time. Yeah, I mean, God forbid we should get involved, right? I had somebody mention to me one time. It was about why don't we have more guests on the show, and we certainly could. And it's something that I enjoy having guests on the show. I really do. Although my anxiety goes up times 5, just because there's so much more pressure than that everything goes well, because these guests do a bunch of other shows, and I don't want them to have a poor experience here on the show. But I also don't want the portal to be equated with who we have on. I've never wanted that for the show. I wanted the show to be about our discussion into the paranormal, and it can be accentuated by having guests every once in a while. I think that adds to the discussion then, but it doesn't become the show, because there's some amazing people out there, and I've loved having all the guests that we've had, but it's not the entirety of what I wanted the show to be about. So just if any of you are thinking about that or wondering why we don't have more guests on, because for one, it's a lot more work for me. I'm already doing 10 shows a week. So it really adds to the workload for prepping and getting everything lined up and working, and it adds so much. But it also has never been what I wanted the show to be about either. Just not about, hey, this time they get this person on, this time they get this person on. It's just great when we can have guests, and but it's not the entirety of the show. So enough of me explaining the Paranormal Portal. You guys know already. You've been here for a long time, most of you, and some of you are new, but I guess that's your primer to the portal. That's your portal primer right there. So anyway, I guess I should probably start entertaining you now, right? And since I don't know how to juggle, I'm just going to have to pick some ghost stories here. The first one of which is coming from Oregon. Oregon, Don, did you hear that? Oregon. Not Oregon. It's Oregon. Don thought it was hilarious when I said Oregon before. So I've been working really hard to say it right. All right, this was originally going to be my first post, but I decided to do a post, my first experience last week in the beginning. And here's what's going on with me most recently. A quick description of my dwelling, built in the early 1970s on the southwest Portland suburbs and as an apartment. It became condominiums a few years after that. It's basically a 3-bedroom apartment, with the smallest bedroom being barely large enough to hold a single bed and a nightstand. Well, I purchased my unit about 9 years ago and found that I had some unknown guests when I moved in. These guests seem to be phased differently, not knowing each other even exist. Guest number one is a little girl. Shortly after I moved in, I'd say maybe 2 months after the unpacking was done, my wife was relaxing on our couch watching television, and from the bedroom hallway, you can look directly at the couch, and I was passing down the hallway from one bedroom to another when out of the corner of my eye, I saw my wife there with a little girl sitting next to her. I turned to look at the little girl full on and made a mental picture of her before moving on to the bedroom. She even glanced towards me for a second before turning back to the television. Maybe 8 years old or so, long dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, wearing a floral sundress popular in the 80s. For some reason, I didn't even think twice about it until about 20 seconds later, I stuck my head back around to the corner to see my wife sitting watching television alone, and I asked her who the little girl was. But my wife just looked at me strangely, which didn't surprise me. And that's the only time I've ever actually seen her. She does seem to be the prankster of the house, hiding keys, moving mail, etc. She'll listen, though. When I couldn't find my keys one day, I said aloud, "I don't have time for this. My keys had better be back on the table when I get back from the bathroom." And sure enough, there they were when I came back. She seems to stay in the living room, and I can still feel her around once in a while, but mostly seems to prefer hanging out with my wife when she's watching television. The living room is also one place all three of my cats can be found on their backs, like someone unseen is scratching their bellies. Number two is the homemaker. Not much to say about this one. A woman who mostly moves between the tiny kitchen and dining area. Maybe late 30s to early 40s. She hasn't caused any problems that I'm aware of. I'll just catch a glimpse of her out of the corner of my eye once in a while. And sometimes I'll hear her say something barely audible, but I can never seem to make it out. It's not a plea or anything. It's more along the lines of, "What would you like for dinner?" or something like that. I believe the homemaker is more of a residual event, not an actual spirit, and the walls are just replaying the event from time to time. Well, our guest number three, Dad, not really my dad, just he's a lot like mine was. He hangs around me most of the time and loves electronics. I'll feel him in the strongest when I'm installing new software on my computer or tinkering with the sound system to my TV, looking over my shoulder as I do the work. No troubles with this guy either. I swear that when I'm installing software, though, I can hear him in my head saying, "This is just amazing. This little box you have holds more information than the entire floor of my office building used to. And it doesn't have to be climate controlled." Guest number four is the cranky old man. This is the troublemaker, or was at least. This is probably the scariest part I had to take care of. The smallest bedroom we use as a storage, and it's pretty full of stuff that we don't use anymore. About 3 years ago, my stepdaughter moved back into the area after living in Vegas for a few years. She had never lived with us in this condo before, so she wasn't in tune with what was going on with the guests, and my wife and I cleared out that room and set up a small place of refuge for my stepdaughter until she could find her own place. Her first night in the room, she came running out at about 1 a.m. saying that something was pushing her out of the bed we had set up, and then had pushed her out of the room altogether. Well, I immediately could feel the anger, almost betrayal coming off of whatever was in that room, like we had invaded his domain. I guess we kind of did, really, but I felt bad about what I did after that, but I felt it was necessary. I banished the entity. I burned incense and recited a poorly written banishing of my own device that I had from decades ago, too long a story to mention in this post. Once I'd finished, could almost feel the room itself relax, like the very walls were able to breathe again after having to deal with such a demanding entity. My stepdaughter stayed with us for another 6 months and never had a problem after that. Believe it or not, but the room seems bigger now. So now in our small apartment-sized 3-bedroom home, the 5 of us, my wife, myself, and 3 guests, have learned to cohabitate. The little girl still likes to hide my keys, though. But thanks for listening. That's pretty cool. Now, I can tell we don't know a lot about this author, but he's obviously he is obviously somebody who is an adept of some type. He's obviously versed in some practices. This isn't just a layman writing his experiences. This is somebody who's been a practicing or a practitioner of some form of esoteric system. So, and obviously he said he has a banishing, so that's more ritualistic in nature. But very cool. Very good story. Very interesting. Depends on what you feel like, though. Again, yeah, some people don't mind that kind of stuff. Other people like, get it the hell out. That's it. They ain't paying rent. They need to go. And neither is really right or wrong, I guess. I don't know. I just feel if they're spirits and they already lived their life and they still want to hang around, as long as they're not being a pain in the tail, then cool, stay around. But to each his own. Wow, we got a bunch of you guys here. Welcome, everybody. I didn't really talk about how many are here, but there are right now 50 people watching, which is good. That's a good number for us. It's climbing. Can't wait till it's 150, but at least it's 50. All right, let's go to California. Let's see what's going on there. It says 2 months ago, we had made arrangements to join the slumber party at Preston Castle, a closed prison for boys in the late 1800s in a state of severe disrepair. Finally, the full moon weekend came, and we were there. This is a really, really famous place. I know Ghost Adventures did a lockdown there, and it's been a hot spot for paranormal research for a long time. I don't know what it costs a lot to get the place dedicated to you, but I can't imagine it'd be cheap. So 14 of us, mostly strangers, set up our beds in the first 2 rooms and migrated back to the front steps to sit and chat, and snacks and drinks would be served in the basement, which had lights and electricity. Surprise, surprise, the lights aren't working at all. It's a perfect full moon with mackerel clouds. I'm not sure what mackerel clouds are. I've never heard that phrase before. That drift over the brilliant ivory sphere in the darkening sky. That's very poetic. At twilight, the bats start flying out of the towers, and absolutely classic. Next, the white owls appear, glistening in the moonlight, effortlessly gliding in and out of windows and over our heads, soaring like timeless sentries. This person, it's pretty well done. Talk about the icing on the cake. The large, ominous castle stands before us, its silent windows steadily observing the gathering of intruders who would soon scamper throughout its limbs, arteries, and heart. The scene is set, and it's enough to set your very pulse leaping. Oh, that's pretty well written. A few of us head to a big room in the second floor annex, 2 stories high with a dark timbered ceiling. I call it the dark room. My attempt at Julie's wands resulted in nothing but confusion, and these were a bit went a bit insane in her hands as well. David experienced his first hair raising near the steps of the 3rd floor. Repeatedly, his arm hair would rise up on solid goosebumps. Julie and Ruth had been in the nurse's station and the infirmary, where they got odd responses in one spot and sharp and clear answers in another. And let's see. David and I spent a great deal of time out in front, taking in the presence of the castle, and David is quietly absorbing all of this, I think a bit amazed and trying with all his heart to be open and yet hang on to his logical, skeptical sensibilities at the same time. It says, hours later, I was sitting in a chair in the infirmary with my back to the wall, and I brought out the wands. I think they're talking about dowsing rods, but which are, if you're not familiar with dowsing, they're usually copper rods that are bent for handles, and they crisscross or whatever. So just for those that may not know, I think those were what the wands are that they're referring to. They're supposedly able to help you detect energy shifts and stuff, such as maybe EMF or some other form of EM energy. But it says, sitting in there, I brought out the wands. To make a long story short, the wands crossed at several questions and went bonkers at others, and I would have to conclude that they were being played with, receiving only a few concrete answers. I ended the session abruptly when someone touched my back of the neck. I don't like being touched. The 2 people facing me could only see the wall, absolutely no one else. I listened to the EVP the next day, and it was really weird. At the beginning, I sounded exactly drunk, or actually drunk, My words were extremely slow. It says show and slurred, but I think it's slow and slurred. Really odd. The worst event was in the library. David and I had backed up the second floor. I had a need to go see that room again, as well as a peek into the destroyed third and fourth floors through the ceilings. That seemed to be important, and yet it was forgotten once we got there. David entered the room and stood near the front door or front windows, and I staggered about the hallway into the room. Bats would respond to our presence by flying around and past us. Tiny little guys, and I thought they were giant moths at first. Silly me. I was expecting 12-inch wingspans, I guess. I heard as clear as can be a sound I could not quite identify. Turning around back towards the door, I fully expected to see one of the hunters walking down the hallway from the right and past the library door. The sound continued directly in front of the doorway, and yet no one was there. Whirling dervish? A whirling dervish? Isn't that a dust devil, a whirling dervish? And that's when I lost it. I walked quickly over to David, took his arm. David's arm hair was up, goosebumps again. We left, period. I would not go into that hallway again until I had peeked with a torch in both directions. I was struggling to describe the sound. A rapid rocking chair noise, walking with heavy sneakers, purposely, full toe to heel. We booked it down to the main staircase and back into the porch, where we counted 12 people. Whew, incredible. Wow, man, shiver, what a night. The longer version and pictures can be found at, and they give a link. Let me see if this link even works. This is an old story, so when I'm reading them to you, they're from 2008, so it's 11 years old anyway. Let's see if this link even still works. Oh, it kind of does, but it's really, yeah. It's just text back and forth all the way. Description of the castle appears here, but I don't see any link pictures or anything. So apparently the webpage is still up, but it's not at all formatted. It's just like looking at a Word document in about 6-point font. So it's just a white screen with little black words on it. So I'm not going to waste any time with that, but very cool. There's a reason it's a paranormal hotspot, ladies and gentlemen, and that's because it's apparently pretty active. I think a woman was killed there too by a couple of or a few of the kids that were incarcerated there, and then they brutalized her and put her in under a stairwell, tucked under a stairwell, and left her body there, and then they took off or tried to take off and got caught. But yeah, pretty terrible event. All right, so here's an interesting one from California. Not too long. It's a pretty short one. It says, last few days I've been hearing the weirdest small noises in and about one kitchen area. Not prone to hysterics. I observe the dogs are not listening or disturbed. Cats aren't interested, and all pet rats are accounted for in their comfy condo. A large metal tin sounds like it has a mouse in it, wiggling around. Nah. The dust on it says no one opened it in a long time. On and on for a few days now, and I'm just rolling my eyes with, what is that, tisking, as I continue my current task. Chalk the sound up to life and the living of it and move along. Chris, our semi-current sporadic resident who is the furthest thing from a prankster in life, so I've eliminated the possibility of her lurking around in my potato chip tin. And then I remember it's only been just a few days since our Preston Castle visit. Well, this is the same person that wrote the last one. And I wonder, one of our ghost hunter friends, is a bit different. He brings home spirits from haunted places and sends them on their way from there. I'm not in his mind, home, or shoes, so while I find this a bit odd and certainly different, I really can't make any judgment calls. For all I know, he actually does this. That brings me to the question I would love to ask the many people here. Has anyone ever experienced any event similar to my friends? Has anyone felt that they truly, intentionally or not, brought someone home with them from wherever? Is this more common than I suspect? Thank you in advance for any response, ideas, or comments. I would just have to say, yeah, it's if you're not careful. If you're not careful, you can bring a bunch of things home with you. But yeah, I think that how long could you stare at a empty building? I mean, how long could that be interesting to you? So if you had an opportunity to hitch a ride and go see something interesting, wouldn't you do it? I would. I'd be following everybody. There's no way I'd just walk in a abandoned building for, all time. I'd be heading to cities and stuff and checking things out. I'd be the fly on the wall wherever I went. But I wouldn't just sit in a closet somewhere if I had a choice. Hell no. Interesting. Oh, here's another one by the same person. This one is, this has to be one of my earliest ghost memories, and yet it was evidently not my first. It was 1958, and I was 7 years old. I woke in the middle of the night, not really exactly knowing why, but thought I had heard the same siren sound as from the movie we had recently watched, The Diary of Anne Frank. The sounds of the sirens in the movie had chilled me to my soul, unforgettable. The combination of movie fears and reality and creates shivers to this day. Someone was in trouble, was my first thought as I cautiously climbed out of bed and searched the house for my family. Excuse me. In the kitchen, wearing pajamas and robes, is my mother and my other sister silently standing by the kitchen door window, looking down the hill to the next door neighbor's house. Polly and Murray. Polly was a gracious, friendly, dark-haired woman who always had time or cookies for the two little girls next door. And her husband, Murray, was an older gentleman, rather loud and boisterous, gray-haired, and plumping in the middle from too many a beer attested to by the Budweiser calendar in his garage. I was always fascinated by that calendar. The pictures above each month revealed the slightly clad young women with abundant cleavage in seductive poses. Wow. There in front of Polly and Murray's house was some sort of station wagon type of automobile or ambulance, but there were no flashing lights, and it may have been a coroner's wagon. Mom was crying, and Sue was silent and watching. At my repeated questions, Mom finally told me that Polly had died. I became immediately confused. When I peered out her window, I could plainly see Polly standing on her front lawn in a long white nightgown with her long dark hair down, something that I had never seen before. And that day and age was when women always wore their tresses wrapped up in public. She was smiling and calm and happy, waving to us, completely undisturbed by the scurry of activity all around her. People were walking all over her prized lawns. I could see her as clear as day from the kitchen nook window to the left of the kitchen door, where I perched on the bench on my knees to see. Arms akimbo on the windowsill. What was Mom talking about? Polly was just fine. I was about to speak, but then I thought better of it, as I'd gotten into trouble for telling tales before. It did make me wonder at such a young age what exactly is dead. Again, thanks for reading. Wow. That's pretty powerful. She actually saw Polly, who had apparently just been deceased. And that was the, coroner's wagon, I guess. Huh. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool experience. Didn't seem like Polly was too troubled, though. She's like, nope, I'm out of here. I'm sick of that guy and his beer calendars and all his Budweiser hussies. All right, let's continue on. We're going to go to Illinois now. Am I missing anything? Anything going on? Let me just see what's going on here. Welcome to everybody. There's now 53 of you. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks a bunch. Thanks for bunches and bunches. We're almost at the half-hour mark, so it's rolling along nicely. It's lovely. All right. I hope you're enjoying the ride. I'm just riding the wave here. So Illinois. I've posted before about the farmer I often saw in my backyard, and I just thought I'd mention a few more things that took place while growing up. 1, most fathers have their favorite chair. Well, my dad was no exception. It was this old chair from the 70s, and it rocked back and forth. It also swiveled. It being old made noises whenever anyone sat in it. Often at night you would hear that squeak the swivel feature made. We're talking late at night. I'd quietly get up and go into the living room to check, and nobody would be up. Lights out, TV off. And I'd like to note, this was a small ranch-style home, so anyone that may be up, i.e. in the kitchen, could definitely have been seen. Number 2, my bedroom was across from the bathroom. Lucky me growing up. You'd hear the water run and even the toilet flush, and I used to pass this off as someone getting up in the middle of the night, but it never felt right. Much like my dad's chair, I'd peek my head out my door and nobody'd be there. Nobody in the hall. Both my parents' and grandparents' bedroom doors were hard to open. They kept them shut at night, and you could hear if someone had opened the door. 100% of the time, I heard water randomly run. I didn't hear the opening of a bedroom door before or after this. Number 3, they say animals can sense things humans can't. Well, I believe it. I was a proud owner of a beagle, and he spent most of his time in the kitchen, sleeping, eating, etc. Sometimes he'd just stare out into space. Now, I know it's an animal, and maybe they're just thinking about a rabbit or something, but he always had this very direct stare, like something was in the kitchen. Number 4, like most teenagers, I spent my time in the bedroom on the computer. I, however, kept my bedroom door open, easy access if I had to go to the bathroom. With my back to the open door hall, I would often feel like someone was in the hall. First, I chalked it up to just paranoia. When no one was home, I'd have this strong feeling that someone was in the hall watching me. I'd like to end with that I never saw a human figure ghost type thing in the house. I just often felt like there were more people in the house than just my family. I hope this made sense, and to those reading, good day and best wishes to everybody. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Not everybody's able to see spirits. I don't know if it's a gift or... I think it's twofold. I think there are people that have some kind of psychic awareness that are able to see spirits, whether they want to be seen or not. And then there are, I do believe also that the spirits can choose to be seen or not. And so I think that we all can see a spirit. If a spirit wants us to see it, it'll manifest to us. And whether it does this by a form of telepathy or if it's actually manifesting, I don't know which for sure. But I think that they oftentimes choose not to be seen, or in their natural state, they're not mostly perceivable by us outside of those people that have that natural ability. But I think that they can shift their vibration enough to be seen by us if they so choose, all the way up to a solid manifestation that is indistinguishable to another human being. So I often wonder how many of us have actually, when you're out in public and maybe you're sitting in somewhere and you just decide to strike up a conversation with somebody that just happens to be there. How many of us have maybe struck up conversations with ghosts, but we don't know it? They were so fully manifested that we couldn't tell they weren't another person. And I don't know. I don't. It's just a guess, but I think it probably happens more than we believe. Because I think that if they are indeed kind of on this plane, whether by choice or by happenstance, that they may just choose to manifest and be seen and talk just for that connection. I don't know. Just some thoughts. There's, of course, folklore full of stories like that. And I think all those things have a root in some form of truth. But to each his own. Come to your own conclusion. So this one is from California. It says, there are 2 huge white lion statues on either side of the gate to an estate, just next to the Cat's restaurant in Los Gatos on Highway 17. The gate is an exquisite wrought iron handmade masterpiece, now replaced with a standard gate. Oh, that's too bad. That begs to be opened. A quiet, shaded road leading off into the trees through a deep woods is all to be seen. Wonderful urban legends linger about that area, including white bats that attack your car late at night should you venture up to the dam to neck. To neck. That's an old way of saying kissing. Necking. And an albino ranch beyond the gates. My ghost hunting banishing partner, Pi, P-A-I, and I were there late at night in the late 60s, or maybe the early 70s. The lion on the right has his eyes closed, and the one on the left has his eyes open. We spent a great deal of time there, touching, feeling, inspecting the letters RIP and some unknown characters that are etched on the lions between the front legs and the back haunches. We finally managed to make it back one time with a camera because I've always wanted to sculpt lions, and these were perfect examples. They became old, familiar, beloved friends. Another night we came by again, and it was one of our favorite places to sit and chat with no one around, and we were surprised. The lions had changed places. Now they were the other way around. The lion on the left had closed his eyes, and we were stunned. We compared notes, contemplated drugs we might have taken unwittingly, which is just a joke, and made notes before we ran home to find the pictures taken previously. Sure enough, lion on the right had his eyes closed. Explain that one. Well, I never did, and if you're ever in the area, you should stop and see them. Quite spectacular. The lions are dated 1920. We went back in 2008, and the lions were in their normal position. That is really interesting. Now there is one of the pictures here. I'll put this on screen so you guys can see it. It's not a huge picture, but it gives you an idea of what they're seeing. This is obviously the eyes open cat, but or lion rather. But I wonder, in this case, is it possible that they were in a Mandela kind of thing? Sorry, that was my stomach. It was not a demon, that was my stomach. But, the Mandela effect, of course, is when reality shifts. There's a strange, I don't know, some people have hypothesized we're slipping into other dimensional realities or parallel realities to our own, and some things are just a little bit different. And could this be an example of these guys actually doing that? And I don't know, that seems to me to be a possibility. So I think that we're constantly probably shifting dimensional awarenesses, but most often it's just a part of our course of life. However, with things like the Mandela effect, where obviously great groups of people have made this shift together and share these memories of things being different, I think that that's an amazingly profound thing, and seems to speak to a more global shift of some kind that had happened at some point to a large group of people. Now, why? I don't know. There's the people that say, well, CERN has wrecked the reality that we had. By changing the weight of one electron, we were shifted into a parallel dimension, and that's where we now exist, or at least a great portion of us. And that's why there's mirror, mirror on the wall. Now it's magic mirror on the wall. The lion laying down with the lamb is now the wolf laying down with the lamb, and just a whole bunch of shifts that people swear is not right. And I share that. I mean, I've of course looked into this quite extensively, and I can't make heads or tails of it. But whatever the case is, I think that it probably happens naturally to us as a course of we're making decisions. So, for instance, now some people will say this is just part of perception, and perhaps they're right. But have you ever been in a portion of your life where everything just seemed wrong? Everything was heavy and ugly and dark, and there always seemed to be clouds and on everything, and nothing felt comfortable or good. But then you make some changes, you shift your paradigm, and you decide to create a better reality for yourself. And what if, by virtue of our creating this better reality, we're actually creating a shift where we move into a different dimensional reality that is not so dark and dreary and hopeless and has that base energy? Maybe it's a more elevated energy. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe we are shifting dimensional realities in the course of our life by our progression and our choices. I realize that that's a really incredibly far-fetched idea, but what if? What if? I don't know. It just seems to me. And what would have happened way back when people remember the Berenstain Bears and the Berenstain Bears and the other ones that I talked about. why did this whole group of people shift? And perhaps it was a similar thing. Maybe there's a raise in consciousness vibration, and that shifted us automatically into a different form of our dimensional reality. I don't know. Could it be? I do believe that we fundamentally create our experience, our reality in this world. I really do. I think that we are creating everything around us all the time. It's just a part of the way we vibrate in this reality with our expectations and stuff. But, what if a bunch of people shifted at the same time? Would that be a possible explanation for a Mandela effect? I don't know. Just some thoughts, way, way deep thoughts. But, whoops, Don's not here. I'm used to shifting back to the Don cam with me. But he is not here. But I think that's really interesting. And it's kind of fun to ponder that stuff. As I've been going through the years of doing the portal and years and years and years of research into all these weird phenomena, sometimes these things kind of jump out at me. It's like, wait, there's something more. There's something we're missing. And so that's how I come to these maybe bizarre conclusions. But it's just me trying to make sense of a whole lot of things that, quite frankly, don't make sense with our traditional ideas and knowledge of our world. I think it's pretty crazy, but cool. I love the idea that, that everything is possible. And I really do believe everything is possible. We are capable of fantastical, miraculous things. We just don't know it yet, or we just haven't given ourselves permission to do it yet, or whatever that case may be. We haven't maybe vibrated high enough to accomplish these things yet, but I really think that we are fundamentally the architects of our existence on a minute to minute, second by second basis. Not that suddenly there was this, this reality and we just appeared in it. I think we are architects of this reality as well. But just my thoughts on the subject, as it were. That throat gurgle, I swear to God, my body's going sideways sometimes. It was like right in my throat after I took that drink. All right, let's see what else is coming up here. I pulled up some more stories because we're at about the 43-minute mark, so we got time for a few more here. Okay, there's no calls, and all right, let's see what's going on. 53 of you. I'm just so honored all 53 of you guys decided to hang out with me here on the portal. Okay, so this, what the hell? I gotta see what this is. Hold on. Not this one, is it? Yeah, it is this one. I got a message from somewhere. Okay. No, I guess I don't. Okay. Just some weirdness going on. There we go. All right, so we're going to Alabama. Let's see what's going on in Alabama for the paranormal. It says, I was sitting in the front room reading a book, listening to my portable CD player. I told you these are old. It's like there wasn't even iPods yet. It's portable CD players. And isn't that funny? That's, for most of us, portable CD players were like yesterday. And there's a whole new generation of people that don't even understand what the hell that means. That's how fast things are changing now. Which is cool. I think that's wonderful. I love developing technology and stuff. In a lot of cases, I don't like the negative parts of that, but I do like that we're continually innovating. But I was sitting in the front room reading a book, listening to my portable CD player, when I heard one of the kitchen chairs scoot out and hit the washer. Thinking it was my mom, I got up and walked into the kitchen, but no one was there. Noticing the bolt on the door was still locked, I pushed the chair back in and went to the front room and heard the same thing again, but only this time I heard a man cuss and he sounded angry. Ruh-roh. So I got up and turned everything off, locked the front door, and when I got to Melissa's, she was in bed. So I walked on to the nursing home. When I got to the nursing home, the RN told me what room my mom was in, and I found my mom and told her what had happened, and she asked if she could leave early. When we got to our apartment, everything was like normal, so my mom fixed us some hamburgers and went to bed, and Sunday morning I got up and was taking a shower when I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and unfortunately, I forgot to grab a towel, so thinking it was my mom, I asked her if she could get me a towel, but I got no answer. So I forgot about the towel and got dressed, and I looked at my mom's bedroom to see if she was in there, but nothing or no one was in there. And I checked my bedroom, still nothing. Thinking it was my imagination, doubting that because of the experience I had when I was a kid. I was heading down the stairs when I felt a gust of cool breeze pass by me. Knowing there wasn't any windows open, I ran down the stairs and asked my mom if she was upstairs, and she said no. Then I told her what I had felt on the stairs, and she said that she had felt it too that morning. That night, my sister Kay and brother-in-law Wayne came, and they asked if they could stay with us until they found a place. And of course, my mom said yes, and I baked some cupcakes, and we were sitting around talking when I looked over at my niece. I noticed she was looking at the corner and said hi. The second time she done it, she said hi and waved. Thinking she was doing it to me, I looked at her again and noticed that she was looking behind me. So thinking it was their dog, I turned around and nothing was there. My sister and brother-in-law thought that she was doing it to me, but I didn't say anything. After we finished talking and everything, we all decided to go to bed. My sister, her husband, and my niece was taking my bedroom for the night. Wayne asked me if he could listen to my radio, so I said he could. And he switched it to a classic rock station, and I went on to bed. The next morning, Wayne was telling Mom and me that he had the radio on classic rock and was drifting off to sleep, and the radio had changed to jazz. Never believing in stuff like that, he said it freaked him out, and he went downstairs and fell asleep on the couch. 15 minutes later, my sister Kay and my niece came down, and Kay said that my niece kept laughing like something was making her laugh. And Kim said she was just smiled and went to sleep. Later that day, my mom seen the manager of the apartments, and she told her that there was an apartment for Kim and Wayne to move into. Can I have rent? Oh, yeah, Marilena. Just give me a minute. I'll get through the story, and I'll give you the address, but I'm sure Julia will give you the address, too, for the email or Duke. So there was another apartment for Kim and Wayne to move into. So after they helped me move their stuff in later that night, Wayne said he was going to get some beer for him and Kim. That's some great language here. When he got back, he asked if one of us went to our apartment, and we had said no. And then he said when he drove by, as he was leaving, the kitchen light flicked on and off, and he seen a black shadow. He said he figured it was one of us, so later that night, Kim and Wayne stayed the night again, and we noticed that their dog kept looking at the stairs and growling. But after a few minutes, he stopped. The next night, they stayed at their apartment, and it was started storming, and the power went out, so my mom and I got some flashlights and candles. We lit the candles and turned the flashlights off to save the batteries. And we were sitting on the couch when the air started having a violent, angry feeling to it. Not thinking anything about it, we looked to the bottom step and seen a black figure of a person. We turned the flashlights on, but nothing was there. And then when we turned the flashlight off again, we saw the figure walk by our window. So we turned the flashlight on again, but nothing was there then. Even though the feel of the violent angriness was still there, it went away when the electricity came back on a few minutes later. So when the lights were back on, my mom went up and was going through her jewelry box, found a cross necklace she had for a long time, and hung it up. We didn't have anything more happen that night, so the next day my mom asked the manager of the apartment if anything ever happened in the apartment, and she told my mom all she knows is before she became manager that there was a guy and his wife that lived there, and the guy came home one day after work and found his wife and cousin together. Well, they got in a fight, and he shot his wife, his cousin, and then turned around and shot himself. Yeah, well, that's a little something. After that, we moved out, and they could never keep anyone in that place. A couple had moved in there, and the next night they moved out. A month later, a mother, her boyfriend, and her son moved in there, and we had become friends with them, and we told them that we used to live there. Without us mentioning anything to them, she asked if we moved because of things that they were experiencing. Without us saying anything, she started explaining everything that was happening that had happened to us, and that her dog, which is a lovable dog, would go sit at the bottom of the steps and growl like he wasn't going to let someone come down. To this day, the apartment doesn't feel right, and no one will stay in it longer than a month. They said there was one person that lived in it for a year because that was all they could afford at the time. Sorry the story is so long. Just want to make sure to share with you another experience I had. You can choose to believe it or not. I explained everything to how I remembered it, which isn't something I've been able to forget. Thanks for reading. Yeah, that's creepy, creepy, creepy. All right, so the portal email address is Paranormal Portal Radio, and I'm going to put it in the chat room right now. So let me just do this quick. Paranormal Portal Radio at gmail.com. Make sure you remember the radio part of that email address too, because I don't own Paranormal Portal at gmail.com. So if you send it to Paranormal Portal at gmail.com, someone else is going to get it. I don't know who owns the address. I've reached out to it several times to see if they would give it up, and to no avail so far, but somebody has it reserved. I'll keep trying, though, to get that address as well, because it's, of course, a little quicker than having to type radio at the end. But the other one that I used to have was Paranormal Portal 4U, number 4, letter U, at gmail.com. But that one is just a side account now, just in case anything should go sideways. So anyway, cool story, though. I like that story. I hope you enjoyed it as well, all you listening people out there. We're down to 50. I must have done something wrong. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, check out Duke's CBD if you're looking for some of that. Duke's Link. Check out Duke's Link. He just posted in the chat room. He is a rep for that as well. And hit the like button for me. For sure, dude. What is PPP anyway? I see that every once in a while. Cha-cha. What does PPP mean? I don't know. I've seen that every once in a while. I don't know what it means. Shout out to Robert Stack. Shout out Robert Stack. Hey, Robert Stack. I'm just reading the chat here for a second. I like seeing what you guys are typing and talking about in there. I mean, I got to do a show, and so that requires me to read a lot. But I do like seeing what you guys are talking about. It's new. Paranormal Portal Posers. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so PPP. That's Paranormal Portal Poser. I guess that I'm the original PPP. I'm OPPP. I'm original. I'm definitely a poser, though. I don't know. But you made it up? Okay, wonderful. You're so creative. Paranormal Portal Posers. Is that the all other channels out there that are mimicking us? Is that what that is? Okay. Well, I think it's fun. So any questions? Anybody out there? If you got a question, put it in the chat quick. I am just thirsty. Thirsty. I ate some salty food. And I'm a little bit parched. I read the Archie comics when I was young. There was such great moral stories with its creator. Became Christian, so don't know how Sabrina got where she is now. Well, everybody needs a little magic. Potty Mouth Lewis. Okay. OGPP, original guy, Paranormal Portal. I'm like the original gangster. I'm the original Paranormal Portal gangster. Have you ever been to Florida, Brent? Yep, I have been to Florida a few times. I went to Orlando once and did the whole Disney trip. That was a cool time. That was, God, how long ago was that? Like 15 years ago or 16 years ago. And then I went down to Miami a few times as well. Used to have a girlfriend, and we would go down to Miami a few times. So I've been to both places. I liked Orlando a lot. Miami was cool, but it's just a really dense city, a lot of people, and I didn't really ever get to know Miami well enough to feel like I real comfortable. But I love the weather. It was really cool. But yeah, I've been there. I love Florida. Linda went to Jacksonville, she says. So there you go. All right. I guess you should move here. You got to got to get to Lakeland. What's in Lakeland, Beastly Bronco? Is that like a haunted area or something? There's some place in Florida that's supposed to be like like largely psychic people live there. Like the whole town is. I think it's in Florida. Is that what you're talking about? If that's it, I definitely want to see that place because I watched a show years ago where they kind of went through the whole town and it's like the whole place is a bunch of psychics. And I thought, wow, what a neat town. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's no secrets there, but but I think that'd be cool. Let me know if that's the same town. But oh, did you? Yeah, Cha Cha saw that too. We are all magical. You're right, Linda. Ripley's Believe It or Not, Casadego. Oh, that's Casadego or Casadega. Okay, and that's in Florida though, right, D? If that's the place, I definitely want to see it. And then there's some place in Florida that there's like, it's where a bunch of carnies like to retire, people that have had their careers in carnivals and circuses and stuff. And I guess there's a cool town down there like that too. And I'd love to see that as well. I love carnivals and circuses and stuff. And there's just a really cool environment there. But he used to be on Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, that's Lewis. Okay. I lived on the Gulf Coast, Florida. Weird place. Yeah, I'll bet it is, Duke. I mean, everywhere can be weird, but Massachusetts or Connecticut. Okay, I don't know, Tracy. I think it was in Florida where that carnival place was, but maybe it's in a different state. Yeah, very cool, guys. So I don't know. I guess that's gonna wrap it up for tonight, but. I love you all bunches. Thank you all for being part of the journey tonight and being in here and having a little chat with me at the end. That's kind of cool. Little time to sit back and just share. Little Paranormal Portal sharing time. But I will, of course, be back tomorrow night, and that'll be with Mr. Donald Schmidt. Will be joining me here in the portal. So I hope you guys will join us then. Again, Donald is just such an amazingly... I don't know, just such an amazingly multi-tiered person, and he's very intelligent. He's really incredibly easy to interview because he just loves to tell the stories and loves to share the information, and he's got so much to share. The last time he was on, it was just such a pleasure. So, really looking forward to having him on again. So, but yeah, we will. Be back then, and then remember Saturday we'll be back as well. But basically 7 days a week, 7 p.m. Pacific time, there's a Paranormal Portal going on right here on YouTube, so you can always catch a show. I know some people have been having problems with the bell and getting notifications, but I guess that's one of the reasons why I just make sure that every night the shows are at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So figure out what that time means to you in whatever time zone you're in, and you will find it. Just head over here and just wait patiently. I'll be launching the shows. But also let me know, you guys, if you guys do want me to launch the chat a little earlier before the shows start. We can certainly do that. Again, the only apprehension I have is that I will probably have to edit it out after every show too, and then we're going to lose that chat replay, the big window that YouTube gives us. And so I'm hesitant for that reason, but I want to hear you guys' feedback, what you guys think. So anyway, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. Check out the podcast on whatever podcasting platform you prefer, whether it's Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, etc. We are 3 times a week doing brand new shows on the podcast. So hope you guys will check it out. But love you guys and have a great night and sweet dreams.